Hey, friends. So let's get brutally honest about something everybody feels, but almost nobody will say out loud. The months between November 1st and December 31st are basically an emotional demolition derby. Everybody's out here duct taping their souls together, trying to look festive while quietly unraveling. You're smiling in photos while mentally calculating credit card damage. You're telling yourself you're fine while your stress hormones are juggling knives. You're eating peppermint bark like it's emotional first aid. You're scrolling at 2 a.m. because silence feels like an interrogation. You're treating yourself with buy now, pay later because it's easier than treating your loneliness, and you must get something for everyone. And listen, this is not judgment. This is the annual psychological Olympics, and most people are running on fumes. Then, right when you're at your lowest battery level, when the holiday dopamine crash hits and the decorations look like a crime scene, December 31st shows up. At 11:59 p.m., with your spirit held together by caffeine and nostalgia and 3 hours of sleep, the whole world suddenly declares, okay, tomorrow I become a completely different person. Like, girl, you still have tinsel in your hair in the beginning of three different buy now, pay laters coming out on the third over the course of the next 6 months. You're not ascending. You're resetting your alarm on the same life. And let's talk about that life for a second in real world terms. Dishes you'll get to later, a job that drains you before 10 a.m., sleep patterns held together by hope and melatonin, an inbox that looks like a crime scene, at the chair in your room with its own ecosystem of laundry, habits you judge yourself for, clutter that whispers you should do better, dreams you keep deferring, and a soul quietly whispering, I'm tired. And that is exactly why people plan their New Year, New Me fantasy. It's a beautiful, desperate delusion that shows up every year like clockwork. Because every December, people shift into panic and guilt and regret. And this year, I'm really changing vows. Not because they're motivated, but because they're overwhelmed with a plethora of unrealistic expectations from society as well as self. So today, we're not fixing your resolutions. We're dismantling the lie behind them. So you don't start the new year disappointed in yourself for not keeping up with a fantasy that wasn't built for the real you. Grab a beverage and or a snack and maybe a notepad. Settle in and we'll discuss why you don't need resolutions. You need realistic rituals. I'll meet y'all on the other side of the intro. Let's just start right where it hurts, because that's where the truth actually lands. Every single year, millions of people step into this weird psychological liminal space between December 26th and January 1st. That awkward floating hallway of time where you don't know what day it is, your diet is 80% cookies, and you're basically a sentient pajama set with Wi Fi. And in that foggy, sugar induced trance, people start whispering to themselves, New year, new me, for real this time. But here's the truth that nobody says out loud. Most resolutions aren't born from inspiration. They're born from panic, from shame, and holiday exhaustion masquerading as ambition. People aren't making resolutions because they suddenly discovered a new level of self love and clarity. They're making resolutions because they're tired, overstimulated, financially hungover, emotionally threadbare, mad at themselves, comparing their life to someone's curated highlight reel, and desperately hoping January will save them from the person they secretly think they are. And here's the part that might sting, lovingly, of course. Most resolutions fail because they were never yours to begin with. They were society's expectations, your family's pressure, your fear of judgment, your panic at the calendar, your comparison to everyone else's seeming success, and that little voice whispering, fix yourself before anyone notices. This is why people crash by January 10th. You cannot build a new life on borrowed intentions. And on top of that, society is right there in your face whispering, everyone else is leveling up, what's wrong with you? Half these resolutions aren't even yours. They're crowdsourced shame. They're expectations you inherited, pressures you absorbed, and standards you never actually chose. That's not empowerment. That's spiritual duct tape. Resolutions are often emotional self punishment dressed up as self improvement. So let me say that again more clearly for the kids in the back. Resolutions are often emotional self punishment dressed up as self improvement. They come from a self imposed pressure cooker. I should be farther along by now. Everyone else has their shit together. I don't want to look like a failure. Maybe if I change everything, everything will change. Even worse, most resolutions aren't rooted in who you are. They're rooted in who you're afraid of being judged for not becoming. That's why they collapse. Not because you're weak, not because you can't stick to anything, not because you lack discipline, but because the whole structure is built on unrealistic expectations, false urgency, fantasy timelines, social pressure, and an identity you're trying to leapfrog into instead of grow into. You don't build a stable life from a place of self loathing and exhaustion. You build it from clarity, compassion, and small, boring, repeatable choices. But resolutions trick you into thinking, if I change everything at once, maybe I won't have to face what's actually hurting. My friends, that's not transformation. That's avoidance with glitter on it. So, yes, the lie behind resolutions is simple. Not your motivation, not your willpower, not your character, but the lie that says you need to become a different person to deserve a better life. Change only counts if it's dramatic, and transformation has to be painful to be real. No, because change can be small and change can be gentle. Change can be slow, steady, and kind. Change can be you, the real you, not the performative version you think the world prefers. You don't need new year, new me. You need new day, same me, but finally supported and seen. And now that we've cracked the lie open, we're going to build something honest on top of it. The problem was never you. The problem was the story you were taught about how change works and how that idea is perpetuated by society. That's what we're dismantling today. So let's talk about the emotional hangover of the holidays, because what you're feeling is not just you being dramatic. From November through early January, your life basically turns into one big, good Lord, someone help me get my life together energy loop. On the surface, it looks festive. Underneath, it looks like coping with loneliness by overcommitting, coping with stress by overspending, coping with exhaustion by overcaffeinating, coping with disappointment by oversharing or over isolating. You're not just busy, you're overstimulated, underrested, and emotionally flooded. Then we hit that weird liminal space between Christmas and mid January, that hallway where time isn't real. Your pants don't fit right, you don't know what day it is, and your phone keeps reminding you that payments are coming out on the 3rd. 2 weeks into January hits everyone. Bills showing up from all that I deserve this and buy now, pay later spending, that clutter in every room, decorations, boxes, stuff with no home, exhaustion from socializing, masking, hosting, or just existing, seasonal depression creeping in with the early dark, the holiday come down, no more lights, no more events, just quiet, cold weather, dark mornings, low energy. No more distractions, just you, your thoughts, and your unresolved life. And then in that state, you look in the mirror and ask, why can't I reinvent my whole life right now? What's wrong with me? Of course, you can't reinvent your whole life in that state. You're not broken, the timing is. And honestly, maybe trying to reinvent your whole life on a deadline is the problem. This is that hustle culture poison. Ability to multitask in a fast paced environment. Works well under pressure. Always on. They took that into productivity culture, and now people are trying to hustle their personal growth. You cannot hustle your healing. You cannot grind your way into a new identity. If your nervous system is fried, if your sleep is wrecked, your bank account is wheezing, and your heart feels heavy, you don't need a resolution. You need a reset. Now, let's break this down like grown-ups. The first big question, do we even need New Year's resolutions at all? Or do we just need better habits and boundaries year round? Because most resolutions don't come from inspiration. They come from shame, comparison, regret, burnout. Good Lord, someone help me get my life together energy. The kind of panic that feels like productivity but actually isn't. That's the root. And then we stack bad logistics on top of that. People fail resolutions because the goals are too big, the timeline is too unrealistic, the stress window is too high. There's no real plan beyond try harder. They don't know how to build micro habits. They think change is a personality trait, not a practice. New Year, New Me sells the fantasy of a personality transplant. I'm going to become a brand new person overnight. No, you're not. Nobody is. Habit creation has nothing to do with the year. It has everything to do with your nervous system. If you are constantly anxious, constantly overstimulated, constantly self attacking, and constantly pouring yourself out for everyone else, your capacity for change is already maxed out before you add a single new habit. It's not that you lack discipline, it's that you're trying to build a house on a flooded foundation. Now, add the reality of how habits actually form. We've been lied to with that cute little slogan, habits take 21 days. No, that idea came from a plastic surgeon noticing his patients took about 3 weeks to get used to their new face in the mirror. It was never meant to be a rule for behavior change. When researchers actually followed people trying to build simple daily habits, things like eating a piece of fruit with lunch, drinking water, or going for a short run, they found it took about 66 days on average for a behavior to become automatic, anywhere from 18 days to 254 days, depending on the person and the habit. Let me say that again for the shame spiral in the back. You're calling yourself a failure at day 10 for something that your brain might need 2 to 3 months or more to wire in. If your nervous system is already fried, your sleep is wrecked, your bank account is wheezing, and your heart feels heavy, your capacity for change is already maxed out before you add a new habit. It's not that you lack discipline, it's that you're trying to build a house on a flooded foundation. And on top of all that, society is right there in your face whispering, everyone else is leveling up, what's wrong with you? Half these resolutions aren't even yours. They're crowdsourced shame. What your family thinks success should look like, what Instagram thinks your body should look like, what hustle culture thinks your productivity should look like, what good Christians, good moms, good women, good men are supposed to do. You're out here trying to build a new life with no boundaries, wondering why you're exhausted. You're not failing your resolutions. You're just letting too many people edit your script. And then you get inside your own head doing the mental mind fuck on yourself, and now your good intentions have become noise. Too much input, no clear direction. You shove it all down until next week, and then when next week gets here, more noise, more shoulds, more shame. Resolutions are often emotional self punishment dressed up as self improvement. You're not broken, the system is. Real change is boring, repetitive, small, consistent, unglamorous. It's one glass of water, one stretch, one prayer, one walk, one boundary, one honest conversation, repeated so many times that it becomes part of who you are. New Year, New Me fails because the fantasy is too big. Real change works because the steps are small and you give your brain enough time to actually catch up. Now, I'm going to say something that might sting a little, but it needs to be said. If you're just watching content, sermons, podcasts, healing videos, motivational speeches, and you're not doing anything with it in your actual life, you are not transforming, you are consuming. You can binge watch guidance all day long and say, but nothing's changing. Well, of course it's not. If you're not taking action, applying tools, trying the practices, making different choices, setting one new boundary, changing one tiny daily behavior, then all of this becomes spiritual entertainment. And listen, I say this with love. You have to be the one to participate in your own transformation. You don't need another New Year, New Me movie playing in your head. You need one small thing you're actually willing to do with your hands, your time, your body, your thoughts. This is not a spectator sport. And perhaps where all this needs to start is with God. Ask for His guidance. God did not put you here to watch other people's transformation arcs and clap from the comments. Ask for His guidance. He isn't going to judge you. You are not an extra in His life, so why are you treating yourself as an extra in your own life? If you're here listening to this, it's because something in you is done with surviving and actually wants to start thriving. And thriving doesn't begin on January 1st. It begins on the day you stop outsourcing your change to the calendar. Here's what almost every resolution's pep talk skips. You cannot build a new life while letting every random person, post, and problem rent space in your nervous system. If your feed is chaos, your relationships are draining, your home is cluttered, and your schedule belongs to everyone but you, no list of resolutions is going to fix that. This is where we get holistic, a whole life vision, not just new habit on top of a dumpster fire. Change is not just do more, be better. Change is also who and what do I need less of? What needs to go? What is no longer worth my time, energy, attention, or money? Who keeps pulling me back into patterns I'm trying to leave? This is where you clear out one physical hotspot, that one surface that actually screams at you. Mute or unfollow accounts that spike your shame and comparison. Say one necessary no where you used to people please. Create even the smallest sacred space, a chair, a corner, a notebook, a routine that belongs to you. You're sensitive. You pick up on everything. If you don't guard your energy, everything gets in. If you don't clear your space, old patterns will fill it for you. Before you add a single new habit, ask, what do I need to stop feeding? Because if you're still feeding the very things that are draining you, you're trying to plant new seeds in poisoned soil. So here's where we go into the ritual reset, real solutions. Because you don't need resolutions. You need realistic rituals and habits, not a 90-day total life makeover, not 12 goals for 12 areas of life, just one small habit, one ritual, one daily action, one micro shift, one thing you repeat until it becomes who you are. Here's how you set yourself up for January before December ends. And honestly, this applies any time of year. Pick one daily ritual, not five, not 10, not your entire self help Pinterest board. One. If everything is urgent, nothing is. Make it stupidly small. Seriously, almost insultingly small. Drink one glass of water before coffee. Stretch for 30 seconds while the microwave runs. Walk for 5 minutes after work. Clean one surface. Write one sentence. Pray for 1 minute before you pick up your phone. Your brain needs wins, not drama. Anchor it to something you already do. Attach it to your morning coffee, brushing your teeth, getting into bed, turning off the TV, sitting down at your desk. Habit science calls this a cue. You're basically telling your brain, when I do this, I also do that. Over time, they fuse. Give it a real timeline, not, I'll do this perfectly forever. Try, for the next 60 to 90 days, I'm practicing this one thing. That window actually lines up with how long it usually takes your brain to start turning effort into automaticity. Not 7 days, not 21, but an actual season of your life. Celebrate consistency, not perfection. You're not building a performance, you're building an identity. Identity is built on what you do repeatedly, not what you swear you'll do once a year. Let small wins actually count. Don't say, it's just 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It's 5 more minutes than it was before. That's how your brain learns. I am the kind of person who shows up for myself. Tiny on purpose. Tiny is how we slide under the brain's "this is too much" alarm. The power of tiny, consistent actions is that they sneak under your brain's resistance. They don't trigger the "this is too much, shut it down" alarm. You're not lowering the bar because you're weak. You're lowering the bar so you can actually rise. If you did your tiny habit 4 days out of 7, that counts. That's momentum. So let's drag one of the most common resolution myths into the light. I'm going to get in shape this year. So you sign a 12-month gym contract, you buy cute workout clothes and brand new shoes, maybe even take a day one selfie for accountability, and then real life hits. You drive past that gym twice a day on your way to and from work, but you're exhausted before you even leave the parking lot. You still haven't eaten properly. You've got family stuff, pets, kids, aging parents, whatever your load is. And by the time you get home, you're wiped. So you don't go. Once becomes twice, twice becomes 2 weeks, and then suddenly it's March and you're paying $40 to $80 a month to feel guilty every time the charge hits. Now you're not just tired, you're ashamed you wasted money, mad at yourself for not sticking with it, replaying the story that you can't follow through. And here's the question you were never taught to ask. Did this habit actually fit my life and my nervous system, or did I just buy the fantasy? Does evening gym time make sense if you're an introvert who dreads crowds? You're dead on your feet after work? You hate driving somewhere else when you're already out of spoons? Maybe the problem isn't you lack willpower. Maybe the problem is this format was never compatible with you. You might be a 10-minute YouTube workout in pajamas person, walk around the block on your lunch person, a stretch before bed person, and that is still valid movement. Right now, a lot of people are in a weird liminal space with this stuff. That awkward in between where your bank account thinks you're a gym rat, your schedule thinks you're a robot, and your body knows you are absolutely neither. Same pattern with buying an expensive planner you never use, signing up for an online course you never open, getting language app notifications you just swipe away. None of that automatically means you're hopeless. It means the container didn't fit the reality of your life. That's not a moral failure. That's a data point for being realistic. So, what do you do when you fall off? Because you will. We all do. Here's the difference between shame spirals and real growth. Shame says, I blew it. I always blow it. Why do I even try? Growth says, okay, I slipped. What can this teach me? Try this four-step reset. And no, it isn't about enabling yourself, it's about being honest. Number one, pause the self attack. First rule, no character assassination. So, no, I'm lazy. I'm just broken. I never stick to anything. Instead, something about this wasn't working. I'm going to figure out what. Same event, but it's a completely different story. Number two, run a gentle habit autopsy. Ask yourself super specific questions. Where did it start to fall apart? What day, the time, the situation? Was I too tired, too stressed, too overbooked? Did I try to change too many things at once? Was the habit too big for my current capacity? Did I actually hate the way this felt but kept forcing it because I thought I should? You're not looking for proof that you suck. You're looking for the exact friction points. Number three, decide. Shrink it, shift it, or shelf it. Once you see the friction, you have options. Shrink it. Make the habit smaller. Do from 60 minutes to 10 minutes. Change from a whole room to one drawer. Change it from daily to 3 times a week. And then shift it. Change when or how you do it. If after work gym is a graveyard, try a 5-minute stretch in the morning. If night journaling turns into doom scrolling, try a 2-minute check-in over coffee instead. Shelf it for now. And it's a hard pill, but sometimes the goal just isn't right for this season. You are allowed to say, this isn't a fit for my current life. I'm going to release it instead of beating myself up for it. And that's not quitting, that's choosing alignment over self-punishment. Then we get to number four, recommit tiny. Now you come back with something doable. For the next 30 to 60 days, I'll walk 5 minutes after dinner. For this month, I'll clean one surface each evening. For this season, I'll check my bank account once a week instead of avoiding it. You're not proving anything to Instagram. You're rebuilding trust with yourself, one tiny kept promise at a time. Let's touch the sore spot most people avoid. Sometimes you keep failing a goal because it's not actually meant for you. Maybe what you think you want is not right for who you are or for the season you're in, no matter how much you want it in theory. Sometimes you don't want the goal, you want the feeling you think it will give you. Or you're chasing a version of yourself that only exists on Instagram. Or you're trying to live someone else's calling because yours feels too small. The goal requires a life you don't actually want to live day to day, and that is not failure. That is misalignment. Quick alignment check. Does this energize me or consistently drain me? Would I still want this if nobody ever knew I achieved it? Does this fit the real me or fantasy me? Did I choose this or was I taught to want it? When I imagine doing this daily, does it feel hopeful or suffocating? And if it feels suffocating, that doesn't mean you're weak. It means the goal, the timing, or the version of the goal is wrong for you right now. Sometimes the most honest, holy thing you can do is say, I actually don't want this enough to carry what it costs. And that doesn't make me a failure. So now we're going to take a sledgehammer to the shame piece. You did not fail your resolutions because you're lazy, broken, or cursed. So say it with me or write it somewhere you can see it. You didn't fail your resolution. You failed a cultural expectation no one actually meets. The perfect January reboot? The overnight identity shift? The new year, new me fantasy? That is a collective myth. You're not the outlier, you're the norm. And the problem isn't that you can't stick to things. The problem is that you were sold an approach designed to collapse under real human weight. And here's the reframe. You're not failing. You're restarting again and again, and that's how real change works. Real change looks like, if you fall down, you get up. You fall off, you come back. If you forget, you remember. If you take a detour, you return. Restarting is not evidence that you're broken. Restarting is proof you're still in the game. So let's zoom all the way out and take a 40,000-foot view look on ourselves. For a long time, you've been in survival mode, spiritually duct taping your soul together, emotionally juggling more than one human should have to, trying to hold it all while secretly hoping one day you actually get to live. This episode is not here to shame you for that. It's here to say, hey, you're not crazy, you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're maxed out. And from that truth, we can move. Surviving says, I just need to make it through today. Whereas thriving says, I'm allowed to build a life that doesn't crush me every January. Surviving says, I'll change everything at once later. Thriving says, I'll change one small thing now, and I'll keep showing up for it. Your shift from surviving to thriving is not going to happen because a clock hits midnight. It's going to happen because you stop waiting for a symbolic fresh start and start giving yourself a realistic, compassionate one. So you don't need new year, new me. What you need is new day, same me with better habits. Start small. Start honest. Start messy if you need to. You are not failing. You are restarting. And that is exactly how real change works. Go live your life like you mean it. I love you guys.